Let's move on now to Imugene, a clinical scale immuno.
Hello, my name is Leslie Chong, and I am the CEO of Imugene, and I am happy to review our data as of late. Imugene is an innovative company in cancer treatment. My disclaimer, so we have 3 novel cancer technologies, all in clinical trials. That means all in cancer patients, and for the most part, pretty late line of cancer patients. And so for the interest of time, I will focus on Azer-cel, our allogeneic chimeric antigen receptor T-cell CAR-T. I know it's a mouthful, but we'll go over that and make it easier to understand. So Azer-cel allogeneic CD19 CAR-T for blood cancer. So in order to understand allogeneic CAR-T, we need to firstly review autologous CAR-T. So autologous chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy. These are the only ones that are approved. So auto CAR-T, and it has revolutionized how we treat blood cancers. So cancer patients, after they have failed off of a combination chemo, they come into a specialized oncology site, hematology oncology site, where they are able to get their T cells taken out by the process called leukapheresis. It takes roughly about 7 to 8 hours. These patients' T cells are then taken to a highly engineered lab where scientists and engineers are able to tease out your T cells and re-engineer those to put back into a very sick cancer patient. Now, that process takes roughly about 4 to 6 weeks. And unfortunately, waiting a month and a half, sometimes it's a bit too long for these very sick cancer population. And sometimes 20% of the time, their T cells couldn't be grown or re-engineered, or they progressed while waiting and they have to take another chemo. But the 80% or so that is able to take autologous CAR-T do quite well. Roughly about 50% of those cancer populations are able to realize a complete response, meaning all cancers disappearing. But unfortunately, even with that, they tend to progress. About 60 to 70% of the patient population progress off of these approved auto CAR-T. So there are 2 distinctive kinds of CAR-Ts. We have just explained the autologous CAR-T or the auto CAR-T, highly personalized, then genetically engineered by particular scientists in that 4 to 6 weeks process, and then infused back into the patient's body. Now, there are 4 FDA-approved products that goes against what's called CD19. So it only appears in blood cancers, and this is the same target that Azer-cel is going after. There are no allogeneic CAR-Ts approved to date. So this is produced by healthy donor T cells. We take very healthy donor T cells. We genetically modify those, and then they are shipped and frozen, taken to the sites in hospitals across U.S. and Australia, where patients, as they on demand require our therapy, can get it within 2 days of coming into the hospital qualifying for our clinical trials. And I'll go over the phenomenal data that we have so far. So again, there are 2 kinds of CAR-Ts out in the world, those that are auto CAR-T already approved, and allogeneic CAR-T, which Azer-cel is, and there are no approved allogeneic CAR-T to date. So since auto CAR-Ts have come on the scene, they have garnered an annual growth rate of roughly almost 50% annually. The price tag is rather steep. These are USD, anywhere between $373 $1,000 to $500,000. So it's a one-time treatment if you can get this. And so it has had a phenomenal effect on blood cancers, with sales going up pretty rapidly. Deals in the size where big pharma and large biotechs are taking up these CAR-T products have been fairly large, in the hundreds of millions upfront payments to in the billions. So the pharmaceutical companies are looking for these. Now, Azer-cel is an allogeneic CAR-T. We take healthy donor T cells, are frozen, shipped to the 10 sites in the US and upwards of 6 sites in Australia, where when the patient needs it, is off the shelf and can be provided on demand. And the data has been quite impressive. So February, we updated the market with 57% complete response rate, meaning patients have come in on their anywhere between third line, and they would have had to have failed off of autologous CAR-T. So those approved auto CAR-Ts, they have failed off those. So some of our patients have seen upwards of 7 lines of therapy, and again, including auto CAR-T. So February, we updated the market with 57% overall response rate, meaning patients come in, they either have a complete response, which no signs of tumors, or they have a partial response, meaning they have to have at least 50% or more of tumor shrinkage. So in August, we were happy to report 79% response rate, overall response rates in our patient, and in September, even more, increasing to 81% overall response rate. That is, patients who have had complete response or partial response to qualify for a response rate. So here's a nice, lovely stick figure to show this. So 7 patients with complete response, with durability lasting, going on roughly almost 18 months for some of these patients. So they've had no cancer growth for 18 months, and then following, there's 12 months, 5 months. And as we continue to enroll patients, we will see the durability still ongoing. And some of our partial responders have moved into that complete response rate, because it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months before we see tumor burden to shrink. So sometimes they have a large amount of tumors, and we're able to shrink those over across 2 to 3 months. In comparison to the approved CAR-Ts out there, so these Yescarta, Kymriah, and Breyanzi, the orange table there, those are all in the second line. The patients had the luxury of only failing off of chemo, and then they came on these autologous CAR-T clinical pivotal studies. So this is what they got their approval on, in less than 100 patients in a phase 2/3 pivotal registrational study. So with Yescarta, you saw 54%, Kymriah 40%, Breyanzi at 53%. Again, this is in second line plus, and they've not had a failure off of other auto CAR-Ts. Now, Azer-cel specifically is in a auto CAR-T failed space. So we're going after third line of therapy and plus more. So these patients have sometimes upwards of 7th line of therapy with huge tumors that they come on. And yet we're seeing a roughly about 45 to 60% response rate. And the CR rate, or the complete response rate, varies because the study is still ongoing. And then time to best response takes anywhere between 2, 3, sometimes upwards of 6 months. So we're still, if a patient came on last month, even if they've had a CR, they would have only shown 1 month. So we're still looking to measure those at the end of the study. This encouraging clinical activity here with 81% overall response rate as compares to the approved autologous CAR-T. So I can't impress upon you enough that the Yescartas and Breyanzi and Kymriah are almost comparing apples to oranges because they've only had chemo or other therapy, not an auto CAR-T where their T cells are really really tried. Here with Azer-cel, we have patients who have failed off of CAR-T therapy, the approved auto CAR-T, and yet we're seeing a whopping 81% overall response rate. Safety profile is looking quite good in that these are what we considered on target or what we expect to see with a CAR-T therapy. And so we've only had one grade 3 that only lasts for a short amount of time. So again, this is comparable, if not better, than what auto CAR-Ts had seen and received approval on. So this is a nice case study of a patient. I love talking about this patient. She's 47-year-old female. She was first diagnosed with lymphoma in 2022. She went on to a combination therapy called R-CHOP. She failed off that, unfortunately, and then went on another combination therapy called R-DAT. These are all just initials of certain kinds of chemo. Her family and friends were able to scrape together money to get on Yescarta, the approved autologous CAR-T. She enjoyed a response of roughly about 7 months, and then she actually failed off of auto CAR-T. Her doctors put her on a lot of steroids to keep, prop her up. But yet when she came on our study, she was able to receive a complete response, a complete clearance of her cancer for going on 18 months now. So phenomenally, she's been able to live cancer-free for more than 18 months, and we hope she keeps going. So her cancer was in a very precarious place nearing her brain. So we were able to alleviate and shrink that cancer and make it disappear. It's quite a joyful story. So Azer-cel has had a prolific development life. So the phase 1 was conducted by Precision Biosciences, where we made the acquisition in late 2023. We were quickly able to put Azer-cel in a phase 1b study, not only looking at late line or auto CAR-T failed diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, we also have started looking at CAR-T naive, so patients who have not had a CAR-T experience or have dosed with an auto CAR-T. We hope to go into an earlier lines of therapy and see much more improvement there, and we anticipate great things with these CAR-T naive population. We will be meeting with the FDA at the end of this year to talk about our pivotal strategy, along with several different studies that we're looking to start with a pivotal study in late 2026, early 2027. So quite excited about laying the groundworks for all the pivotal study activity that we'll be doing from late 2025 all the way on up to 2026. So the commercialization opportunity is rather large for these kind of therapies. So when you look at various different kinds of lymphomas, the US incidence are rather high. And then the market opportunity here, if we go into CAR-T naive, those that haven't had auto CAR-T experience, those are numbers for the complete addressable market because there's currently no therapies or therapies are quite limited other than chemo for these patient populations. So we're quite excited about going into this hugely unmet population. So in summary, we have the potential to be the first in class allogeneic CAR-T to be approved in this space. With our promising and stellar 81% overall response rate, I think we will get there. We could have a potential for a single arm pivotal phase 2-3 registrational study in a CAR-T naive space. And we have a very strong safety profile. This is what the FDA looks for. Because our products are manufactured with healthy donor T cells, there's a high scalability to that one to many. So one batch can create drugs for upwards of 20 patients. So there's high scalability here. Low cost of goods to make. So we hope that at the end results of this will be a lower price product. So I won't go into our oncolytic therapy here, other than it is still ongoing, looking at solid tumor cancers. And we're currently in combination with Blincyto, which is an approved product from Amgen. And at early stage, we have had lots of preclinical data with other autologous CAR-T and T-cell therapy. And the idea of combining with several different products here is a reality in that our OnCARlytics enables a solid tumor to look like a blood tumor cancers like CD19. So it covers a solid tumor with CD19. And then when you combine it with a CD19 therapeutic product, it creates a situation that's quite similar to what we're seeing with auto CAR-T and our own allogeneic CAR-T. These kinds of products where you are looking at genetic modifications to cellular therapy requires a level of experience, and I have that in my team. So all of us have had experience developing cancer medication with upwards of 18 FDA-approved drugs that we have helped shepherd through the market. We have a board of directors that understands biotech and pharmaceutical companies. And the expected outcome for the next quarter is really, we have a planned FDA meeting to talk about our pivotal strategy and continuous output from our existing Azer-cel phase 1b, and especially in that CAR-T naive space. 2026 will be chock full of activities around our Azer-cel and the beginnings of our pivotal study readiness. So OnCARlytics, Vaccinia, and our others is partnering and out licensing opportunities to be announced quite soon. And also our conference presentation where we're peer reviewed and we get to really talk and put our Azer-cel on the front lines of lots of pharmaceutical company and investors. Okay, I am at the end of my presentation where our market cap is 107 million, with our second largest shareholder there being Fidelity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie. I have a couple of investor questions here for you. Firstly, when do you expect the next key clinical data readout for Azer-cel, and what milestones should we be looking out for in 25-26?
For Azer-cel, our key milestones will be likely around the FDA Type C meeting. So this is an end of phase meeting where we talk about our pivotal or registration. So registration and pivotal study means the next phase of study that we'll do before we can market the product. And so that will be pretty major in that speaking with the FDA about our few strategies of which study we want to move through. So that is as early as at the end of this year, calendar year 2025. And then throughout, there will be sprinklings of various different data outputs for our phase 1b Azer-cel, especially the lookout for our CAR-T naive. So those patients who have not experienced a failure off of an approved autologous CAR-T. So we're quite excited about these particular spaces because this is an unmet need. It's what's called a niche area. And the FDA usually is pretty kind to us and they welcome a single arm study. So that means a smaller population and a faster time for approval. So I think that's the next key milestone that actually I am looking out for so that we can start activity to gather the data or continue to gather the data for our CAR-T naive patients, as well as start looking at CMC activity for a pivotal study. So I think that's major.
Is Imugene's current budget sufficient to fund operations through your next major trial stages, or will further capital raising be required?
For our capital, we currently have enough money going into June. So we've got lots of activities happening with the FDA, of course, and CMC activity. When we start the initial activity with our pivotal study, where we have triangulated on exactly which patient population we're going after, which study design that we have, and then our joint science committee has approved on that design, then we can start the activity. And yes, we will likely need funding at that point to go into a very exciting registrational pivotal study. So it's sort of the last phase before we go into a study where we can approve the product or market. This is where pharma companies get really excited about a product, so we can anticipate some conversations happening there as well.
Okay, how does Imugene plan to commercialise its therapies through in-house development, partnerships, or potential licensing deals?
So as I just stated, this question is very much in line with our strategy, which is to partner, collaborate our Azer-cel. I think bigger pharma companies do a great job of running phase 3 in collaboration, and also their commercialization strategy tends to be, their department happens to be very, very large. So we will be in heavy talks with several different companies for either co-development or partnership.
Okay, one last question. Given the rapid advancements in immunotherapy, how does Imugene ensure it remains competitive and differentiated in such a fast-moving space?
Yes, that's true. Immunotherapy has taken the world by the storm in cancer therapy, and we have quite a differentiated one with our allogeneic CAR-T. So we're quite competitive in that space with the off-the-shelf or on-demand. There is no allogeneic CAR-T has been approved thus far, and I think we could be a leader in that space. Given what we're seeing in the clinic now, we can anticipate that this could be highly differentiated and may get attention because of that. We have other products that we'll be looking to out-license or collaborate with, and those are quite innovative therapy that could help lots of other companies move their dial much further along.